Have you ever felt yourself being in the small percentage of folks who haven't seen a single Star Wars film? What about if you just have an awful memory or you just want a quick recap going into it before you see The Last Jedi? Well, then look no further because we got you covered. Hi, I'm MD from ObserveMedia, and let's get started. Now, before we get too far, Star Wars The Force Awakens is the 7th installment in a hugely expansive series, which will not be covered in this video. I'm going to focus solely on The Force Awakens for this video, but I would be crazy not to introduce just a few major players that have made appearances in the series beforehand. So here's Luke Skywalker. They pretty much spend the entire film trying to look for him. Next is Han Solo and Chewie. Han Solo is essentially a space pirate scavenger, and Chewie is his partner. Leia is Luke's sister and is currently the leader of the Resistance. Darth Vader was the main antagonist of the last two films, and then there are a few more characters that hold merit, but none that need a serious introduction. With that being said, let's jump right in. So The Force Awakens opens up in an iconic fashion of scrolling text explaining what has happened in between the last episode, 6, and this current one, 7. The text explains that Luke Skywalker has vanished and tells of a sinister organization known as the First Order that has risen from the ashes of the Empire and will not rest until Luke Skywalker is dead. Leia, the leader of the Resistance, has sent out her most skilled pilot, Poe, to retrieve a map that is supposed to have the whereabouts of Luke. After that, we open up with a shot of a droid known as BB-8. Poe takes the map from a man named Lor Zanteka inside a tent, reassuring him that now they have a chance. BB-8 then enters the tent, warning Poe that they are being threatened. Clones then swarm the camp, rounding up and shooting many civilians. Poe attempts to escape, but his ship is damaged. He then gives the map to BB-8 and tells him that it's
safer with you than it is with me.
We then see a bloodied handprint stain a clone's helmet. We will later go on to know this clone as Finn. A larger black spaceship arrives and Kylo Ren walks out. He approaches the old man who gave Poe the map and demands that it be given to him. Then Tekka refuses and Kylo makes him pay for it. Poe, in a desperate attempt, tries to fire a blast which Kylo blocks with a power known as the Force. The clones capture and search Poe with little success. A stormtrooper captain named Phasma comes out and asks what to do with the villagers that are left, and Kylo orders them to their death. Once back on the ship, we see Finn take off his helmet. He is visibly disturbed with what happened a few minutes prior, and then we meet Rey, a scavenger on the planet of Jakku. Once outside, Rey then hauls the scraps to a town where she exchanges it for a currency called rations. Later in the day, she hears the screams of a droid and comes out to its aid. We then see the droid is BB-8, and Rey then proceeds to free the little droid. Back on the First Order ship, we see Poe being interrogated by Kylo, to which Kylo succeeds using the Force to get Poe to talk. Back on Jakku, the scrapper offers Rey a very large amount of rations for BB-8. She refuses and leaves. Back on the ship, Finn breaks Poe out of his jail cell and then proceeds to tell him that they're going to get off the ship together. Then after a massive chase scene, they end up getting damaged and crash onto Jakku. Finn then wakes up and cannot find Poe. He believes him to be dead. Finn then makes his way to town where he sees Rey being attacked. Before he can aid her, she takes care of herself. Once notified by Rey, Finn gets chased and interrogated because he is wearing Poe's jacket. Finn lies about being part of the Resistance, and then they are attacked by clones. They run through town and end up using an old ship to escape. Once they are out in the clear, Finn and Rey have a heart-to-heart and get closer. And then back on the command ship, the general alerts Kylo that the droid has escaped, and in a fit of rage, Kylo attacks the messenger. Rey fixes a gas leak in the ship when suddenly the ship gets taken over. The gang hide to ambush, but then they find out that it's not the First Order, but instead it's Han Solo and Chewie. Han reveals that the ship originally belonged to him and he's taking it back. It's known as the Millennium Falcon. Finn brings up that BB-8 has a map to Luke Skywalker. Before they come to a resolution, two groups come into the ship demanding money back from Han. Han reveals that there are monsters on the ship and lets them loose. The Rathtars, as they are called, start devouring people, and Han and company escape using the Millennium Falcon at warp speed. On a large planet called the Star Killer, we meet the leader of the First Order, Snook. The General and Kylo Ren talk about a weapon that can easily stop the Republic, and then Snook tells the General to prep the weapon. Back on the Falcon, Han takes a look at the map but determines that it is incomplete. He also explains how the Jedi, the Force, and everything people tell stories of are true. He also explains that Luke was trying to find a new League of Jedi, and that one of them turned bad and ruined the whole operation. Once they arrive on Takodana, they head into an old watering hole looking for someone named Maz. Both the First Order and the Republic are alerted of their presence. Back on the ship, Kylo asks Darth Vader's helmet for guidance. We also find out that Vader is his grandfather. Ooh. Maz convinces Finn that he should leave. Rey attempts to stop him, and Finn reveals the truth about his lies and leaves anyway. Little after that, Rey is drawn to the basement by the sound of a child screaming. She reaches into the chest and finds an old lightsaber where she is haunted by visions of the ones who had used it before her, Luke and Anakin Skywalker. Maz appears and reveals that it is Rey's destiny to wield that lightsaber. She rejects this and runs off, so instead Finn is given the lightsaber. He joins back up with Han when the First Order begins their attack. The Starkiller weapon is unleashed and destroys a large portion of the Republic's fleet. Back on Takodana, Kylo Ren enters the battlefield where Rey, Finn, and Solo are all fighting. However, just in time, they are saved by the Resistance ships led by Poe. Surprise! As for the fight commences, Kylo captures Rey and takes her back to the ship. And Finn tries to save her, but he can't reach her in time. Afterward, Han and Leia have a heartfelt reunion. It is at this moment it becomes obvious that they are Kylo's parents. Back on the Resistance base on Dakar, we see Finn and Poe have an even more touching reunion. Finn makes his way to Leia and explains how they need to save Rey and that she is on the Starkiller base. Leia tells Han,
"If you see our son, bring him home."
On the Starkiller base, we see Kylo attempt to use his Force mind tricks to extract information from Rey, but she refuses with her own powers. She then later uses these powers to escape from Kylo, while Kylo alerts Snoke of her potential. Kylo returns to retrieve Rey and notices her escape and lets out another fit of rage. Back on Dakar, the Resistance sets up a plan to destroy the Starkiller. Han crashes the Falcon onto the Starkiller base. Then once inside, Finn and Solo capture Phasma and use her key codes to disable the shields. Once they are down, the Resistance shows up and begins their assault. Rey and Finn reunite, making their way to the engine room to place several bombs. Han notices Kylo walking and calls him out, except he calls him by his birth name of Ben. Kylo asks Han for help and then proceeds to impale him with his lightsaber. The group scream in terror as Han Solo falls to his death, giving his son one last heartful stare. Chewie, in a fit of rage, then injures Kylo with his crossbow and sets off the bombs. Then we cut back to the Resistance final bombing run. Once outside, Kylo knocks out Rey momentarily and begins his fight with an enraged Finn. Kylo easily overpowers Finn, and just as Rey wakes up, she watches Finn get taken down. Kylo extends his hand for the lightsaber, but instead it goes to Rey. And while gaining more mastery of the Force, Rey defeats an injured Kylo. The Starkiller base begins to implode. Rey, Finn, and Chewie escape with the Falcon as the Starkiller base is destroyed. Rey comforts Leia upon the return to Dakar, and then R2-D2 comes back to life and reveals he has the rest of the missing map. They then find the location of Luke, and Rey decides she must set off to find him, telling Finn that they will meet again. Finally, before leaving, Leia tells Rey to let the Force be with you, and she heads off. She arrives onto an oceanic planet. Once landed, Rey climbs up the mountainside and finds a hooded figure who reveals himself to be Luke Skywalker. Rey holds out the lightsaber to him, and the film ends. Well, there you go, guys. Hope you guys found this useful heading into The Last Jedi. Be sure to subscribe and let us know in the comments what would you like to see next from us. But until then, let the Force be with you.